Yo, it's telling me my okay, saying can't be delivered. I only sent one to you and Al. I tried to send the rest of them to other people, but they didn't
Whatever might go down, we gonna survive that. Walls and shelter, we gonna find that. When you hear this sound, you know that I'm back. Hey, it's where I put your mind. When that disaster hit, don't you get trapped in it. You must always stay prepared with your disaster.
All right, how's everybody doing? I'd like to welcome you to the live internet TV show, Starving the System. I am your host, Elohim. I'm gonna let you call me the same thing I let you call my Facebook. I'm let Twitter folks and everybody else call me, let you call me E. This is the show that allows you to break free from anything and any system that wants to lock you up, take your money, or make you sick. And the way we do that is by giving you applicable information that will allow you to do such a thing. So, hey, first of all, before we get any started, before we go anywhere, what I need you to do for me, please, is Facebook, tweet, Instagram, text, call somebody, get your kids in the room, get your boyfriend, whatever you want to do. I need everybody to get together and let folks know that we are on right now at 7 o'clock, and we have a dynamic guest for you today. Melanin, all right, how you doing? This is better live on webcast instead of blog talk. We did it just for you. This is for you. So look, as you remember, if you didn't see last show, it was all about survival preparation. We had our to-go bag and showed you how to do that. Check that show out. Refer people to that one. So we went with the same theme song. But we want to go straight to our guests because we don't have much time. If you saw Hidden Colors, which if you haven't, you need to go see it. Then you've seen this dynamic brother. He's a doctor of psychology, a school psychologist as well. And he has spoken on a lot of forums and done a lot of things in our community. So if you don't know who this person is, you need to get to know Dr. Umar Afatunde Johnson, I believe. So I just want to bring this brother up so we can go ahead and get this thing kicking. I want to say real quick, you know, this brother, I just reached out and asked him, you know, if he would consider doing the show. He got back within a few minutes and said, man, let's run it right now. Let's do it. So I just want to thank him live while I had a chance for this brother coming on at the drop of a dime and lending us some of his information and wisdom. So we appreciate it. So, brother, are you with us?
Yes, indeed. Peace and blessings to you and your audience, Brother Elohim, and thank you for the opportunity to be on your show this evening.
Thank you, brother. Real quick, I want you to get right into it. If you could give a little background as to who you are, what it is you do, and how you came about the book that you have now. And that book, if you see right there on the side of our screen, the Psychoacademic Holocaust. If you could, sir.
Indeed. Well, Dr. Umar Johnson is who I am. I am a nationally certified school psychologist, doctor, clinical psychology, certified school principal, and I'm also trained as a political scientist, a Garveyite Pan-Africanist, blood relative of Frederick Douglass, great-great-great-great-grandson of Stephen Henry Bailey, Civil War veteran, Frederick Douglass's brother. I evaluate children. I determine who goes into special education. I provide therapy, parent training, and professional development to schools all across the world. And basically, this book, The Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, will be my very first book in print ever. And so I'm very much looking forward to it. Somewhat difficult to compile because I have so much information. You can't get it all in 100 pages or less, you know, so there's obviously going to be follow-up books to this one, but because it's my first, you know, it's going to be real special to me.
Okay. So what actually, so this is basically, I don't know exactly how to put it, but this is a gathering of the basics of what you've gathered of your studies so far in your line of work?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Not only my study, but my experience, and not just my experience. I would say it is the collective pain, hurt, and it is the collective experience of African people as it relates to the miseducation and psychiatric oppression of our boys. This book is not only being dedicated to my children and my ancestors and my family, but also to all the mothers and fathers and black men and black boys who have had to suffer educational racism through the system, all the tears that have been watered, all the mothers who have called me crying, fathers who have been prevented from going into the school building because some white teacher or principal described them as quote-unquote threatening. So I dedicate this book to them, and this is basically the raw and uncut truth. It is probably a good follow-up to Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu's Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. That was an excellent piece that was done in the 80s and the 90s, but now we're in a new millennium, in a new century, and as a result of that, there's a lot of things going on now that weren't really going on or weren't going on to the extent they are when he wrote his very, very powerful book. In fact, what people need to do is read Dr. Jawanza's Kunjufu's collection on Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. Read that in preparation for Psychoacademic Holocaust, because you're going to need some warming up before you read mine.
Okay. And we have some people on our chat line saying they love they love you, Dr. Umar Johnson. Okay.
I appreciate the love. I don't take it for granted at all.
So let me just ask you, what is it that you hope that you want your book to accomplish in the community? Say if we can get it in the households that it needs to be in, what is that your book is going to accomplish that you would hope it would accomplish?
Well, number one, I want people to understand the how. We always talk about how we have problems in our community, and then we jump right to the solutions. But between identifying the problem and creating a solution, you have to understand how the problem operates. To know that black boys are being miseducated is not enough. You have to know how the system operates. To say that you have cancer isn't enough. You have to know what's causing your cancer and what's maintaining it if you want to eradicate it from your system. I think in the black community, we have a bad habit of jumping from identifying the problem and then looking for a solution. Just because you know the name of something doesn't mean you know the nature of something. Just because you know the name doesn't mean you understand the nature. And so in my book, I want to make sure that we understand the nature of miseducation, the how of miseducation, the why, the when, and the particular strategies that are used to marginalize black boys. In other words, we know that only one out of every 4 black boys will get a high school diploma in the United States. That's a fact. But how does that operate? In other words, when the black boys comes to kindergarten at the age of 5, how can the system guarantee that only 1 out of every 4 is going to complete with a diploma by the age of 17? I talk about how they do it. And it's the same thing with the psychiatric medication. We're going to look at the ADHD diagnosis, the conduct disorder diagnosis, the oppositional defiant disorder diagnosis. We're going to look at the criteria, and I'm going to talk about how they use these labels to over-medicate our young men. So we all know the what, but we don't know the how. So the purpose of Psychoacademic Holocaust is to educate the community on the how. I want us to understand that this is serious, and it is intentional. It is not an accident. A lot of us think it is an accident of the system. It is not an accident. It is deliberately engineered, and I'm going to talk about that. And I'm hoping that the book will motivate everybody enough to want to help support me as I build the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Independent Academy for Black Boys. So I'm hoping that after brothers and sisters read this book, we will understand that there's no future for our boys in public education, and then folks will dig in their pocket and start donating money to the school.
Well, that's what's got to happen then. It's got to happen in that order. So I just wanted. So let me ask you, because I do see where you are Pan-Africanist. So is your let's just say the total mission or that you hope to accomplish is it to actually leave this land, or is it to basically leave the system? Like, do you leave the school system, or is that just step one to get ourselves out of the school system?
That's just step one. Whenever you go to war, you train, you prepare, and then you face your enemy on the battlefield. Anybody who's ever played sports, you train, you prepare, and then you face your enemy on the battlefield. The United States of America is the training ground. This is the training ground. Africa is the battleground. In other words, we're going to build our schools right here. So when we build them back home, once and for all, we get it right the first time. We're going to build our businesses right here. We're going to build our industries right here. We're going to fix our families right here. And so when we get to Africa, we will build them once and do it right and serve as an example for the rest of our folks. So ultimately, yes, we're going to have to repatriate. White supremacy will never tolerate black power. Let me say that again. White supremacy will never tolerate black power. You will never see 40 million blacks in a sea of 380 million whites and a whole bunch of other probationary whites who are other races who are voluntarily joining in on the oppression of African people by virtue of being allowed to come to this country. So you have everyone else aligned against us with no sort of economic or political power hold that we have to really challenge white supremacy to leave us the hell alone so we can live in peace. It'll never happen. Black people will never be left alone to live in peace in this country. Okay, as Mr. Garvey said, the future of the race outside of the continent spells ruin and disaster. I totally believe that. It's not popular saying it, though, because a lot of black people don't want to accept the fact that ultimately Africa is going to be your salvation and not the United States. We don't want to give up the white man's parks, his water shows. We don't want to give up his amusements, his museums. We don't want to give up his white women, his hair products. We don't want to give up his automobiles and his leisurely living. Black people are addicted to Americanism, and until we become as addicted to Pan-Africanism as we are to Americanism, then ultimately our existence in this country will be a foregone conclusion that we will be removed. So yes, at the end of the day, Africa is the answer. There is no future here, but we must practice here so that we can perfect it back home.
That was eloquently put. I've never actually studied heavily of the Pan-Africanism movement. I've always kind of thought, well, this is originally was our stuff anyway, and we was here first, and sooner or later we'll drive them. I don't know what I thought we was going to do. I don't know. I guess I never figured.
No, you can come back and get it. No, you can come back and get it. Ultimately, the African spiritual destiny is to reclaim the oath. The entire globe must be reclaimed and ruled in righteousness. Okay? But in order to do that, from a geopolitical and strategic standpoint, you must always acquire the most valuable asset. And the most valuable of all the continents is Africa. It is the only one that can exist self-subsistent without any external aid, support, or trade. So yes, you can come back and take America for those who love this. You can go back and take Europe because you were there first. You can go back and take Asia because you were there first. Australia, Antarctica, and everywhere else. But first, you must claim the high ground. And the high ground is Africa. In order to win a successful war, you must operate from a position of power. Whoever controls Africa controls the world. It has been that way since the beginning of time, and it is a law that cannot be broken. You cannot expect to bring about a global African insurrection leaving Africa out of the immediate equation.
Right. I think it has to be sort of like the other, when immigrants come here and they may stay here for however long, but their money and the things that they're, matter of fact, the guys, I have some, it was just some Mexican co-workers, and what they do is they fix cars and trucks and tractors, and then they send them to Mexico. I mean, that's what they do. And I guess it's sort of the same type of thing. They're getting their things established here to bring back to their homeland, so to speak. So I think that's definitely has to be done, I think, in a strategic manner. And I know I kind of got you away from your book. I just had to ask you that because...
It's all right. It's all relevant.
Exactly.
Because what is the purpose of education? The purpose of education is for political insurrection. So that's the whole purpose of education. I would argue there's not a black child in this country who's being properly educated. That is my premise. There's not a black child in America who's being properly educated. I don't care if they go to an independent school. I don't care if they go to a charter school. I don't care if they homeschool. I don't care if it's a religious school, independent school. There's no child in this country who is of African descent who is being trained and taught how to acquire, maintain, and defend power on a political, economic level. If your child don't understand international trade and commerce, Don't talk to me about independence. Don't talk to me about nationalism. If your child can grow their own food, don't talk to me about independence, self-reliance, and nationalism. If your child don't understand white supremacy, if they don't understand how and why AIDS was created, if they don't understand the hows and whys of mass incarceration, if they don't understand why the school system must fail, then don't tell me that they've been properly educated. We need a new school system. And I hope that I'm blessed enough to bring forth that prototype of a learning system that our children need, because they're not getting it. At the very best, we're taking European education and we're putting a drum, a dashiki, and a couple of lessons about Egypt on top of it, and we calling it African-centered. I don't think so.
Excuse me, to suggest that there's really no children that's getting their I want to salute my first time listeners and viewers, Melanin, the Empress, and David. I appreciate you guys. Kahiri, I appreciate you standing in and logging on too. So by you saying that, how do we get a true education while we are here in this land? How do we obtain that? Where do we go to find that?
Well, the one thing about the educational system, it's one of the few things that you will be allowed to do in the short term because it doesn't pose an immediate threat to your enemy. See, one thing that white people have learned about black people since the civil rights movement is that getting more information doesn't automatically mobilize us into action. Prior to the civil rights movement, when we knew something different, we did something different. After the civil rights movement, if we knew something different, we might think a little bit differently, but we don't behave differently at all. And that's why the white man is not afraid about the books that are published. They're not afraid necessarily about my book, although I'm on their radar, because they understand that if our parents stop giving our children this Ritalin and Adderall and Strattera and Slycurlin and Depakote and Risperdal and Paxil and Zoloft, then that's going to start affecting the Wall Street profits. So they're interested to see whether or not my book motivates our people to behave a little bit differently. If it does, then the book itself becomes a threat. But largely, they're not concerned with information because they see we have all of it, but we do nothing with it. Okay? So teaching our children isn't automatically going to alarm the system unless they see our children putting that information into practice. We can build the correct type of school. The problem is you have to look at the mindset of the people building and running the school. If you are an integrationist, you don't have any business teaching African people because integration is a mental illness that can only bring about extermination. So any education that's based on fitting African children into the American social order must fail. It's like preparing a child to be swallowed by an alligator or swallowed by a shark. You don't give a black child an integrated education because you're teaching him that he actually has a place at the table of white supremacy, and you know he does not. That is an education of deception.
I would encourage anybody, like, again, that has not seen Hidden Colors, and Doc, you may be able to suggest some other DVDs. That's the only one that's on my mind recently because you pointed out something that I didn't have knowledge of, and that's when slavery was over with, certain things were put in place to secure the job set for the white male and for the Europeans that came over. And prior to that, I didn't realize why labor unions, why they were started, and even why we begin to let in immigrants, and some that were sick or the poorest of the poor and criminal contents. Why we opened the floodgates to America. When I say we, I mean America. So I do have to say, it when you say we won't really get a fair shake here, that we have to make Africa the home front. I kind of see what you're saying, as long as we're not in control of the system, and as long as we don't, like you say, we don't really have a chair. We just get to give our money to the system, but we don't really get any say so because we don't own any big major corporations or anything like that, and we know corporatism is the way things are running. So I have to agree with what you're saying. Kahiri on our chat line says, framing the topic of education in the context of war is a step in the proper direction. All of our communal interaction and relations with foreign powers must be viewed through the prism of building, empowering, and defending a nation. That was just a comment on our chat line.
Totally agree. Absolutely agree. If you don't have a properly educated nation or community, then you will always be at the mercy of your enemy's wishes. Because deception, propaganda, miseducation, whatever you want to call it, is the greatest weapon of the enemy, because it does not adequately prepare you for what's about to happen to you. Our children should be able to understand the Obama nonsense. They should be able to see it for what it is, which is just another outfit that white supremacy is wearing to fulfill a particular geopolitical agenda, and that's it. That's it. But they're not being properly educated. We'll teach our children about ancient history, but we won't teach them about recent history. And I'm going to argue that recent history is at least, if not more important than ancient history, because recent history teaches you the military strategies of your enemy. Learning about AIDS, learning about special education, learning about the creation of ADHD, learning about the normalization of homosexuality. Okay, that teaches you about warfare. Okay, but simply studying temples and tombs and great people who died 50,000 years ago, that's not helping us right now. And we have to stop glorifying our history and instead start looking at it for the instructional lessons that we can take from it. If all you're going to do is look at your past so that you can embellish yourself and your ego and the great accomplishments of your forefathers, then you are not making accurate use of history, because if nothing else, it should show you where you went wrong so you never repeat that same mistake again.
Right. I definitely agree with that. So the first offense is, and it's funny that, not funny, but it is funny that your book is the topic that it is. I have a family member who was always basically put in, because they, for whatever reason, may have stayed back at an earlier grade, and, they were considered to be slow or, in special education. And just having a conversation with them now, they're older now, and when they told me that basically just being looked at in that light caused them to behave a certain way. And once
goodness. And there's a famous experiment. Everyone listening to this show, I want you to go to your public library tomorrow, and I want you to check out, purchase the Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Prison Experiment, which was conducted by a psychologist by the name of Phil Zimbardo, where he recruited students to participate in a jailhouse experiment where some of them had to act as the inmates and others had to act as the actual police officers of the prison. The study had to be cut short because what the study proved was that people will act like what they're expected to act like. It proved that when you give a regular person a police outfit, a military outfit, Marine Corps outfit, then they will begin to act the part of a Marine, because the psychological demands of the uniform are greater than the commitment to the principles that they stand for. When you treat somebody like an animal, they will act like an animal. The Stanford Prison Experiment is a must-see documentary. We must see that because it shows you how modern day Willie Lynch is being carried out. It shows you how the American social order actually engineers the behavior of black voice by controlling the media, controlling the music, controlling the movies, controlling the curriculum, and controlling their access to respectable forms of black male mentorship. So we have to understand that most of us who think we are acting independently of our own free will are actually acting out of the will of white supremacy, because we don't even control our own thinking.
And I think that experiment has been reenacted and duplicated in a few times now, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen that on TV a couple of times in different forms. That is very powerful, and that explains a lot when you see what we're witnessing from our youth today.
Free will. We don't really understand the concept of free will. People think that they have free will. You have to fight for the psychological right to practice intellectual free will. Most people don't have it. From the time you're born, you're being taught how to think by your parents, who have been taught how to think by white supremacy. So from the time you come home from the hospital, white supremacy is already conditioning you through your parents. Most of us don't have free will. Even people who consider themselves conscious, members of the conscious community, whatever the hell that means, okay? They don't even have free will. Just because you have more information doesn't mean nothing. There's white people who know as much about African history as we do, okay? So the fact you know your history doesn't mean you know yourself, and it doesn't mean that you are operating out of free will. Free will must be fought for like any other freedom. You have to fight against misinformation. You have to fight against brainwash. You have to fight against conditioning. Many of us think we're thinking our own thoughts when we're doing nothing more than thinking the thoughts that white supremacy has planted deep within our subconscious from the day of our birth.
That was, and I can't do nothing but say a shade of that. So
and to let your listeners know also, they can purchase the book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, on my website, DrUmarJohnson.com. They can also purchase it on the cell phone site if they want to purchase on their cell phones. So you can go to the full site on the computer, or you can go to the small, brief, abbreviated site on your cell phone, DrUmarJohnson.com. If you pre-order the book by New Year's Day, you'll get a free DVD along with your purchase. The release date is going to be February the 1st, 2013, first day of Pan-African History Month, okay? But if you purchase prior to January the 1st, you will get a free DVD along with your purchase. So the book comes out February 1st, but you have until January 1st to actually get your free DVD with your pre-order.
Do you have an ebook also?
I'm going to do the ebook, but I'm not going to do it right away. Okay. I've heard of some horror stories with the ebooks. A lot of people have, had their copyright totally violated by people who purchased the book and then ripped the code off of it, so you no longer have to put in a password to access the information, and then they share it with everybody else all over the internet. So I'm a little bit wary of that because I need this money to help with the different projects that I'm working on. So I am going to go to an ebook, but not right away. The ebook is going to be a ways away, and that also reflects my own personal bias. I'm not an ebook reader. One of the rooms in my home is nothing but books. It's my library. I have about 3,500 in my personal collection, and they're all hard copy. I'm an old school type of a guy. So I'm not a Kindle type of a guy or anything, iPad type of a guy. Give me the book. But for those who are into that, they're going to have to wait a while. I don't anticipate going into ebook format until 2014. So if you want the book in 2013, you're going to have to buy the paperback version.
I'm totally with that also. I've never read an ebook before. I'm strictly, I need a physical copy.
Yes, indeed.
So and that information is on, if you follow me on Facebook, it's on Twitter, it'll be on the Starve the System site also. So Doc, I want to just thank you for doing the show, and I want to invite you to definitely come back after a while, and
certainly.
You have a lot that you can speak on, whether it be your experience as a psychologist, school psychologist, or just the Pan-African movement by itself. So
indeed.
I want to wish you as much success, and we're going to promote your book on our show and me personally. And I just want to say thank you for for giving us some time and coming out. And again, that's is Dr. Umar is it DrUmarJohnson.com?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he's on Twitter, but it's under Dr.
Yes,
Umar
I'm on
Johnson.
Twitter, Dr. Umar Johnson. Facebook, Dr. Umar Ifatunde, ISAT as in tall, UND as in dogmatic, IFATUNDE, Dr. Umar Ifatunde. That's my public page. Anybody can follow me there. I post all upcoming speaking engagements on there as well. We have St. Louis coming up for the very first time this coming Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we thank you. We appreciate it. Anytime for the next book or the next anything, if you're in Atlanta, definitely please come out. We'd love to have you in the studio. So I just want to say thanks again for doing this for us, and thank you for everybody that logged on also. Kahir, appreciate you, David, Melanie, and everybody who didn't log on our chat room, but I know you out there. I sees you. I appreciate you for being out there, and please let folks know about this show and our show every Thursday. So thanks a lot. Thank you again, Dr. Umar Johnson, and you can also see him on Hidden Colors. Do you have? Is it any other documentaries besides Hidden Colors that you're also on? Besides, you have your own DVD, of course.
Yes, I have my own DVDs, which can be purchased on my website. The Hidden Colors products; those are actually products of Tariq Nasheed, the producer of the documentary, who did a tremendous job with both Hidden Colors 1 and Hidden Colors 2. They can order them either from Amazon or from HiddenColorsMovie.com. Those are Brother Tariq Nasheed's products. My products can be purchased on my website. Wilmington on Fire is another documentary coming out. It's going to be talking about the race riot in Wilmington, North Carolina, when the white folks burned down a very viable black city. It was a black Wall Street in North Carolina.
I'm actually from Wilmington. I'm actually from Wilmington, North Carolina. I've talked about that on the show, and we actually just spoke about that not too long ago. The only successful coup d'etat in American history, and we definitely talked about that. Yes. Are you a part of that?
I'm in the documentary. Yes.
Wow, I had no idea. I just promoted that on my actual Facebook page. So that's very law of synchronicity.
Definitely.
All right. So thank you, Doc. We appreciate it. And again,
indeed,
appreciate you guys for logging on. We're gonna see you next Thursday. I have no idea what the show will be about, but I guarantee you it will be a great show, just like the one we had here today. So thank you, everybody.
Definitely.
Warrior salute to all of you out there. Even Al get a warrior salute today. Appreciate you, Mr. Producer Al. All right. Y'all have a good one.
All right now.
Peace.
The kid. In the club you might be drunken so you may laugh again, but when you sober up you know it, here's what you have to get. Stay prepared, never be fearful or even scared. These natural disasters cannot be compared, so rise and realize you will survive. In the meantime, prepare yourself with these supplies. Get coils of rope and coils of wire. In a waterproof container, put all your fire, like matches and candles, and don't wear sandals. Get some hard boots and work gloves to handle the situation, cause when disaster hits the nation, you and your family gonna need your medication. Antibiotics, aspirin, the chronic, even health foods like vitamins and garlic, pain relievers, inhalers and breathers. And make sure you got something that can take down